Ask Sharifah Videocast. And as you know, if you know me, I usually do not do interviews on Saturday, but this gentleman, I was like, oh my God, you have to meet him, because not only is he a doctor, not only is he educated, but he is so entertaining. If you all could hear some of our conversations, you would just be amazed. But I wanted to make sure that you meet him. And as always, before I start any show, I'm going to go ahead and ask you to do what I always ask you to do, and that is to go ahead and share this interview, because friends don't let friends miss out on Ask Sharifah, and I already know you are not going to want to miss this interview. So with all that said and done, I'm going to go ahead and introduce my guest, Dr. G. Palmer. Dr. Palmer, how are you this morning?
I'm great. This afternoon we're on the East Coast, and it's the afternoon. We're at 2 o'clock, and it's been a pretty eventful day so far.
Yes, it's only 11 o'clock here in Cali, so cut a sister a break. I'm doing the best.
I know, right? There you go. I get it.
So one of the things that I really loved about you is that some people talk about the community, some people talk about the state, some people talk about the city, but every time you speak, you focus on humanity. You're a big picture type of guy. Can you tell our audience a little bit about you? But I'm going to stop you. Before I do that, anyone who's listening, if you have any questions or comments, please place them in the comment section. I'll go ahead and read them to our guests. Tell us a little bit about your Purpose Quest, Dr. Palmer.
PurposeQuest International is a consulting firm, and what we do is we focus on you said big picture, but it's really more of the most minute picture, and that is us as individuals. I think it's important that we focus in on us. A lot of times we're looking for answers outside of ourselves, when I'm of the mindset that the answers that we're looking for, the solutions to our community problems, our social problems, our criminal problems, all the problems that you can imagine that are under the sun, the answers are inside of us. And so what we do at PurposeQuest International is to help people to understand who they are and how they fit into the big picture of things on how to solve problems in our community, culture, and clan.
How did you get started on this path?
That's a good question. I got started on this path before I was born.
Mm-hmm.
Purpose is about being who you are before you were born. Mm-hmm. Purpose is about you having been created to solve a problem. We're all problem solvers. The thing is finding the problem that you are supposed to solve. Mm-hmm. I believe the Creator I'm a big spiritual person. And so everything that we do around PQI is around spiritual matters and scientific, because that's what PurposeQuest International focuses in on. We focus in on spirituality and science, because we believe that those two go together, whereas a lot of people think that they bump heads. They really, really don't. They really compensate and they fold intertwine with one another if we look at it the right way. And so what happened for me is learning through school. Being in school, I learned the importance of science. Now I have to say to you that I hadn't always thought that way, because I didn't always like science. Mm-hmm. But what I've learned is that the importance of science, and the importance that science plays in us as individuals. Every aspect of us has something to do with science, a scientific method, a scientific methodology. And so what we have to do is to understand the role that science plays in who we are. And so what I had to do is I had to learn to appreciate science. And once I learned how to appreciate science, I began to look at myself. Mm-hmm. And that's where it has to start. It has to start with self. I begin to look at myself, and I begin to see some things relative to me and science, and how science plays a big role into who I am. And so what I did was I started as a mental health person, working with people with PTSD and with veterans, and working with addictions, and working with food disorders, and working with all kinds of addictions. I started using this methodology over the years. I started tweaking it, and it began to just get results in people's lives. And so what I've done is I said, well, it's time to take this on a more macro level and start sharing it with more people than I have in the past. And so what I've done is I've decided that it's time for PurposeQuest International. It's time for Purposeology to step out and to help people find and answer the most important question that faces humanity. And that is, why was I born? Why am I here? And so that's what we do through Purposeology at PQI.
I love it. It's so much that you said that I just want to just shout and say, I agree. That's right. Right on it. One of the things that you talked about is the whole spirituality versus science. And you are absolutely correct. So many people want to make them separate. They want to make it like, oh, it has to be absolutely spirituality. Right. It has to be absolute science. But you know what? We are all a mix of both. It's the nature versus nature. It's so many things that affect who we are. So I'm absolutely glad that you said that. The other thing, when you started talking about PTSD and mental health and those sort of things, I always ask this question and it always surprises me. So I love asking it. That to me is like your career path and one of the things that you were doing. But I always find that my guests have some moment in their life when they're like, okay, I have to help. I have to make a difference, whether it's something they experience with their parent, something they experience with a sibling, something they experience through relationships. But was there something to where you said, you know what, I have to help wake people up to who they are?
Absolutely. It happened in January 2010. Here in Washington, D.C. Actually, the ground was being set and established before then, well before then, back in since 1992, maybe even before that. I happened to come in contact with a man by the name of Dr. Miles Monroe from Nassau, Bahamas. And I started reading his materials. I was actually overseas. I was in Germany. I was living there. And I started reading his material. And wow, it was revolutionary. It just shook me. It just took me to another place. And so I began to just read his material and watch him. So I wound up coming back to the States. In 2010, I was awakened at night, and I was told that I believe spirit talks to people. I believe there is a very strong relationship to what people may call their conscience or whatever. I believe it's spirit. Spirit said to me that Dr. Monroe was coming into the area where I live, and that I needed to go. And in going, before I go, he said, when I go there, I want you to do some certain things. And I'm not going to get into what those things were, but I want you to do these things, A, B, and C. I said, okay, I'll do A, B, and C. But I'm only going to do it if there's an opportunity that afforded for me to be able to do it. Other than that, I won't. No, so I go to this meeting, and Dr. Monroe, he's speaking powerfully, revolutionary. It's some things that I'd never even heard before. It basically intoxicated me. It really transformed me. It made me dizzy because it shook my world. It shook what I thought was my foundation. It really did shook me to the core. And so it came time for me to do what I was sent to do. And I got up and I did it. And when I did it, I touched his hand, as in to shake his hand. And he grabbed me. He grabbed me with such force. And when he grabbed me, it literally catapulted me across the room. Now, there are people with me who can testify that this happening. It's not anything that I'm making up. There are people that can tell you they saw this happen. It literally catapulted me across the room, at least 15 to 20 feet, and it knocked me flat on my back and knocked off my left shoe. And while I was laying there on the ground, semi-conscious but yet awake, I could hear him speaking into my life in the background. But while I was laying there, I saw these pages flipping like a book, flipping real quickly. And I heard a voice saying, "This is what you'll do. This is what you'll do." And so this was 2010. Beginning of 2010. And so he shook my hand, we hugged and everything, and I left. And then I had an inkling that I needed to start following this man. So I started following him. I started traveling with him. I started meeting him at places. I started providing him gifts. I would just gift him something because I just appreciated him that much. I would give him things, whether he used them or did anything with them, I have no idea. But it was a matter of just my appreciation to him, to express to him how much he meant to me. And so what he began to do, he began to tell me, he said, look, I want you to come here and come there, meet me there and meet me there. And I think that's an important aspect to see how hungry a person is. And so I would meet him in these different places, and I would take time off from my job. I would spend my own money and stay in hotel. I did everything I needed to do to be around this man. And so he said to me, he said, I want you to start helping me with the book signings. So I started helping him with the book signings, and I would just stand there and watch him, how he handled people, and how they loved him, and how they would just talk to him and pour out to him. And while he would sign the books, and he would tell me that as he signed his signature, he said that this signature is worth $100,000. And I said, is that right? He said, yeah. He said, you got to believe that your signature is worth something. And so I said, well, okay. And so he would talk to me about things like that between people that he would sign books for. He would just drop nuggets on me, and I would just listen, and I would just garner and just gather it in. And it was life changing. And so I would go to meetings, and I would go and stay. I even thought about moving to the Bahamas, because that's where he's from, Nassau. Considered moving to the Nassau, Bahamas. But I said no, and some things changed that kept that from happening. But so I'm still following this gentleman around. And so I felt that it was time for me to put down and to write what I had been receiving relative to the idea of purpose. So what I did was I began to basically seek spirit about what it is that I wanted what it was that I needed to talk about. Spirit told me it was about purpose. But I said, well, Dr. Monroe he's Mr. Purpose. He is the doctor of purpose. He said, I want you to talk about purpose, but I want you to talk about purpose differently than Dr. Monroe. And, and what happened was I wrote a book, and I released the book, and I believe it was 2012. And it's called Purposeology, the Science of Purpose, Rediscovering Your Individual Purpose. But I wrote the book, and Dr. Monroe, and I approached him about writing the foreword for my book. He said he would do it. This was about 2011. He said he would do it. So he wrote the foreword to my book. He said to me, he said, I love the name Purposeology. He said, I wish I thought of it. I said, well, I'm glad you didn't, because I think that it's something that I'm supposed to do. And to this day, I believe that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm doing what I'm created to do, and that's to help people find purpose. Now, when I talk about Dr. Monroe, and I talk about Purposeology, or I talk about purpose, because this man, if no one's ever, under the sound of my voice, if you've never heard of Dr. Miles Monroe, you need to go online and you need to look him up on YouTube. It'll transform your thinking. It really, really will. But so in being with him for some, I don't know, 5 years, maybe four and a half, 5 years in person, and since 1992 through his writings, I learned a lot about him, and I garnered that spirit of purpose. And one thing I can say about and I have to say this, I could not write, I could not speak about purpose the way that I do if it wasn't for Dr. Miles Monroe. It is not possible. And some people think that I've taken his message and twisted it. I have not. What I've done is I stand on the shoulders of Dr. Monroe, and I look at purpose from a different perspective, a different vantage point. I believe it's time to elevate the message, the idea of purpose to another place. And you can't do it without first understanding what Dr. Monroe had brought to the table. And I'm very, very appreciative to him. I love him, and I appreciate what he's been to everyone that he's come in contact, thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people. And for those who know, he transitioned in, I believe it was 2014, due to a plane crash in the Bahamas.
Wow.
And, yeah, I'm sorry.
No, I just said, oh, wow.
Yeah, him and his wife and everyone on the plane perished. Well, I don't like the word perish, but transition to that place of where we all will eventually. And it shook me. It literally shook my foundation to the point that I didn't know what to do. I withdrew. I got quiet. And then in that time, I began to get encouragement. And the encouragement came in the voice of Spirit telling me that it's time for me to move forward. Now, I didn't know if I was really ready because I was still recovering from a man who changed my life. And most people who know Dr. Monroe, I wouldn't say most, I would say all. Everyone that's come in contact with Dr. Monroe came in contact with a very, very special person, and he changed my life. And it's that message of purpose that I think is so important that I have to take it forward as his legacy, as a part of his legacy, but as also a part of what I'm supposed to do. Now there's going to be someone that's going to come after me, but at this time, it's my time to share what purpose is about from the perspective of spirit and science and how they come together and how we are to use and coming to identify purpose. Because most people, I'm going to say I've come in contact with three types of people. A person that says that I know what my purpose is. A person that says, I think I know what my purpose is. And then the last person says, I have no idea what my purpose is. Now, all three of those people, I found there's something that Purposeology offers that can help you. Whether it's confirmation, whether it's to help you to begin your search, or even to help you identify what purpose is for your life. It's something there for you.
Wow, that was amazing. If you are just now tuning in, a very special Saturday episode of Ask Sharifah Videocast. Our guest today is Dr. G. Palmer. We have people tuning in the chat room. Thank you to Nakia, to Clyde, to JJ, Alfred, Tanya, Francis, Gwendolyn, Sydney, a few more other people that I'm not going to name. Francis says, so true. You're a very interesting guest. If anyone has any questions or comments, please feel free to add them in the comment section. Now, I'm going to ask this question, Dr. Palmer. You just spoke from your heart. I felt that. I felt that you just gave us your journey from your heart. And often, and I'm going to, because of you, and you know I love you to death, I'm going to stereotype a little bit. Sometimes men, especially African-American men, it's very hard for them to speak from our hearts, that for them to be able to say, I followed this man around the country. I gave him gifts. That's very difficult to be able to say. When you were going through this process, and the only reason I ask this, because I always tell people, when I initially started on my journey back in 1994, when I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, it was the people who loved me the most who said, Sharifah, if you don't get a job, you're lazy. It had nothing to do with the amount of money I earned. It's just back in 1994, it was unheard of to work from home. Now in 2019, if you don't work from home, they're like, what? You got a job? Like, you actually go somewhere and clock in? Like, it's a whole different philosophy. So I always try to educate my viewers on the process, because sometimes, you know, people tell me we make it look easy. You know, you make it look easy. It was easy to just go follow him around the world. What was that process like for you?
It wasn't easy. Mm-hmm. It calls for a lot of sacrifice. It calls for, humility. You have to take the lower seat. You have to be willing to take the lower seat. You have to be willing to give, and to give sacrificially. And it wasn't easy, because sometimes, it cost me in various personal ways. But it was something that I knew that I had to do. It's something that I knew that if I didn't do it, I would live to regret it. And to this day, I am so happy that I followed this man, and I just went from place to place. And a lot of times I mean, I would just sit. I wouldn't go. I wasn't asked into the higher seat. Wasn't asked to come here or come, but it was just a matter of sitting under his voice and sitting under his tutelage that made all the difference. Now, I became a mentor of one of his among a lot of people, and I would go and spend a lot of time. And after he read my book, he had some. He really began to say some really. I got an opportunity to speak at several places that he spoke at. He would call me up. He would mention me during some of his conferences. He would also not only just mention me, but during some of our mentor sessions among some of the other mentees, he would call me out and point me out specifically about having taken purpose to the next level. And I believe that. I believe that. And I'm not trying to take Dr. Monroe's place. No one can do that. Because Dr. Monroe is a masterpiece. He is, like the rest of us, a unique grimoire. There's no other one that'll ever be like Dr. Monroe or like Sharifah or like Greg. We are individuals. We are masterpieces. No one can compare to us. So I can never be Dr. Monroe, but I can be the best Greg because of Dr. Monroe and because of what he's left, because of what he's given me, and because of how he just loved on folks, man. It's just tremendous.
Wow. Now, I was taking a look at your website, and please give our viewers your website address, and I'll go ahead and post it in the comment section. But I was looking through your website. It was interesting, and I saw a lot of information about Purposeology and you and your bio. But also, since we're discussing Dr. Myles Munroe, you're doing a project about him.
Yes, I am. What I'm doing is because he meant so much to me, I think it's important that I honor him. Today is his 65th birthday. Dr. Monroe would be 65 today. And because of that, what I want to offer is there's a project being done by some individuals in the Bahamas. And what they're doing is they're doing a film on Dr. Monroe about the life and times of Dr. Myles Munroe. And the film is called Mr. Purpose. And what I want to do is I want to be a blessing in this project. I wanted to be able to give and to sow into this project that would affect so many lives. And I think that the viewers would benefit from sowing into a project like this. And so what I want to do is I'm going to ask people under the sound of my voice, if you would just give $65, and the $65 are 65 years that he would be today as far as his age. And what I would like to do is we've set up a way where you can give. And what I want to do is have all the proceeds to go to the finality or finishing of the film, Mr. Purpose, which is now being done in the Nassau, Bahamas. And as a result of you giving the $65, what I want to do is I want to give you a copy of my book, Purposeology, The Science of Purpose. I want to give you a copy of Dr. Myles Munroe's book, In Pursuit of Purpose. And then I'm going to also give you a copy of my Kindle book, for those who have Kindle, and it's called The Concepts of Purposeology, where we go and I just give you an overview of the 20 concepts that go into making up Purposeology.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. Again, I posted that link in the comment section. And I know we don't have enough time to go through all 20 aspects, but can you give us some of those? You know, you got us all interested. I want to know about Purposeology.
Fine, sure. Now, what we have to understand is that we are first spiritual beings. Now, there's a difference between being a spiritual being and being a religious individual. I'm not talking about a religious person. I'm talking about being a spiritual person, because a spiritual person has no denomination or affiliation, but understands that when you're a spiritual being, you're connected to everything and everyone. Spirituality is the essence of what and who we are. It isn't about labels or titles. It's about who we are. Now, when we start talking about spirituality, we're talking about that part of us that's not intangible. Okay, but what we can do is we're an intangible being inside a tangible body.
Mhm.
And in this tangible body, we have what's called a soul. And in that soul, we have a mind, will, and emotions. And one of the keys that I think that's important is the mind. And in the mind has the ability to understand and to put together scientific method. And so what we do, what I want people to understand is that what science is the ability to put knowledge together. So many people think, oh, spirituality and science should never be brought together. Well, if you look at what spirituality is, spirituality, or the word spirit, literally in the Latin is the word knowledge. That's all it is. Knowledge. I'm sorry, I'm not spirit, science. Science, all it means is the word knowledge. And so when people hear the word science, rather than getting all upset about it, they need to understand that science is a part of who we are. It's a part of what we need to be able to function on this place called Earth that we live in. Now, I'm gonna just bring up one particular scientific modality method that we use in Purposeology, and it's called a nomenology. A nomenology is the study of proper names. And when we start talking about the proper name, we're talking about everything has a name. Now, when we look at our names, a lot of times we don't realize that in our name resides a part of purpose. In the nomenology, in your name, there is purpose. Let me give you an example. And I'm going to give one from antiquity. Jesus. Some people say that Jesus was not a real person. I believe he was. Jesus, the name Jesus means salvation. If you look at the life of Jesus, what he brought was salvation. The word salvation actually means deliverance, not religious deliverance, but spiritual deliverance. Now, let me use another example. Let me use another example that a lot of people may be more familiar with. And these are found in my book, Purposeology. The one example is Abraham Lincoln. Now, if you look at Abraham Lincoln's name, Abraham Lincoln, the word Abraham is the father of many. That's what it means, the father of many. And the word Lincoln actually means a lake, pool, or colony. In other words, he's a father of a lake, pool, colony of many people. Now, if we look at what Abraham Lincoln has been credited with, and that is the emancipation of slaves, that is the people, or the many, or the pool, or the lake, or the colony that he was, if you quote unquote fathered. Another person that's very popular in our history is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And if we look at Dr. King's name, his name now, a lot of people don't realize this, but Martin Luther King's name was changed. His name was originally Michael. And was
I didn't know that.
Yeah, eventually was changed to Martin. But if we even look, I'll use both of them. Now, the word Martin actually means the creator of war. His original name, Michael, actually means like God, or who is like God. And Luther means the army of people. And King means the servant of heavenly places. So what are we talking about? We're talking about a man who was a servant, a creator of war, because what he did was he warred against inequality and injustice in during the civil rights. So in name, these are just a couple examples. I can give you, in this book, I give you a number of different people whose name plays a significant role in who they are. People like Nelson Mandela, Oprah Winfrey, Beyonce Knowles, Sarah Breedlove, Malcolm Little, Barack Hussein Obama. These are some of the people that we talk about. Tiger Woods. I mean, we go into a bunch of names that show you the importance that names play. Our names are not an accident, Sharifah. Our names are not accidents. Our names are not, we think our name is something that our parents came up with. It's not. Our names are divinely inspired. Our names are divinely connected to our individual person. So that's just a little bit of just one of the 20 different components of Purposeology.
Okay, I think when we finish this interview, I'm going to have to start Googling. I want to start Googling and researching Like, what does that person's name mean? What does that person's name mean? But you are right on point. I love it. Oh, this is so good. Again, if you are just now tuning in, we are speaking with Dr. Greg Palmer. Please, I posted his website in the comment section. Go to his website, check it out, check out the project. Also, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to put them in the comment section, because that's why I'm here on this Saturday afternoon, okay, having this conversation, because I wanted everyone to meet Dr. Palmer. He's so amazing and so intellectual. And you know what? You're right, because my name, Sharifah, okay? In Arabic, in Al-Islam, one of their practices is when a baby is born, one of the elders whispers the baby's name in the baby's ear so that the first sound they hear is their name, you know, and Sharifah means honest, it means of honor. In many towns and groups, you always went to the Sharif or the Sharifah. Sharifah is the feminine version of Sharif, but the Sharif in that community was the truth teller, the person you would go to find out whatever you needed to know. So I've always lived my life like that. That's how the whole Sharifah brand came, is because if you come to me, I will tell you my truth. And sometimes I tell people, you may not want to ask Sharifah, because I'm going to tell you the truth as I know it.
And I've heard you say that a couple times. Yes.
That's a lie. You may not,
as I know it. That's right.
I know it. You know, you may not want to ask me, because what do they say in that movie? Everybody can't handle the truth.
Can't handle the truth.
Yes. I love it. This is some good stuff. So we talked about your book. We talked about one of the 20 elements. To find out the rest, you definitely want to go to the website and pick up the book. What are some of the things that you're up to these days? What are you working on? I know you travel the world speaking.
Well, one of the things that I'm doing now, right? I'm writing. I'm still writing. I believe that there's a call to purpose-centered leadership. Mm-hmm. And so I'm publishing right now. I'm publishing a book called Purpose-Centered Leadership. And what I believe is this: with what we are facing here in the United States, we're facing a crisis in leadership. One of the things I learned from Dr. Monroe is this: he said in other countries there's no such thing. And I'm not going to mention the country. I'm just going to make this statement. He did mention the country though, but there are certain countries that there's no word for the word crisis, but there's in turn, rather than the word crisis, there is the word opportunity. Mm-hmm. And so we're going through a crisis in leadership in these United States. We really are. But that crisis actually is an opportunity in leadership. And I'm watching, and I look on the internet and I see people who are writing about leadership. I see people who are demonstrating leadership. And I believe that it's, you know, one of the things that I'm not seeing is seeing leadership spoken in reference to purpose, because I believe that's where it all begins. I say this, and I'll say it, and I really do mean it. Purpose is the most important issue facing humanity. It's the greatest issue, and I believe that's why this particular message is so important, because without purpose there can be no answers, but in purpose we can answer all things.
So that's interesting that you spoke about the leadership, because on one of my shows I did a couple of weeks ago, I had Pastor Eddie Jones on, and Pastor Eddie Jones is one of the people that spoke at Marathon Store when everyone congregated for Nipsey Hussle. And so I asked Pastor Jones to mention some of the things that he has said in his speech. So he gave our viewers some of the information. He shared with them the information. So the question I followed up with Pastor Jones was, okay, the people are out, they're in the streets, they're upset, they're hurt, but what action are we taking and what guidance are we giving people now to actually do something or make a change? So to a certain extent, when we speak of leadership, I believe that that's what the community, that's what the people, especially our young people, are looking for, is that leaders that not only say this is how you should feel or this is how you should react, the leaders who say this is what we're doing. Like years ago when we had the March on Washington, at the very least, that was an action that people were able to take. Do you have any thoughts on that, Dr. Palmer?
Yes, I do. When we start talking about leadership, if we look at, especially in the African-American community or in the Black community, in the past, we looked at it for our leadership came from the pulpit. Mm-hmm. It came from our religious leaders. But there's been a crisis in our pulpits. Mm-hmm. And as a result of that, there's been a transference of leadership. And you can see it even in an example of Nipsey Hussle. You can see that the leadership role that he took within his community. Mm-hmm. And he's a rapper. He mm-hmm. wasn't a preacher, but yet he was a preacher, but not the kind of preacher that we would say that has a church in the pulpit, et cetera, et cetera. But his lifestyle was something that was more indicative of someone that's in line with their individual purpose rather than someone following behind some other people. But his leadership was of providing jobs for those that had been incarcerated. These are tremendous things that he couldn't have thought of just doing it out of itself. These are things that had to be planted in him. And so when we start talking about leadership, each one of us has an area of influence. Mm-hmm. The thing is, we've got to find our area of influence. Many people are trying this and that and this and that and this and that, failing to find that one thing. See, this is the thing people have to understand about purpose. There's only one. We only have one purpose. Everything has one purpose. Mm-hmm. One. Now, it can have many functions, but it only has one purpose. You can't understand the functionality of a thing until you understand the purpose of a thing. And the mm-hmm. purpose of a thing can only be found in the mind of the maker of the thing. If we want to find out how Toyota Camry car is supposed to operate, we've got to go back and find out what was in the mind of the maker, Toyota, when they made the Camry. And that's the same thing we have to do when we start talking about individual purpose. We've got to go back to find out what was in the mind of the creator when Sharifah was born. Mm-hmm. What was going on? And that's what Purposeology does. It gives you an idea of what was in the mind of the maker when you came on the scene and why you're here. And we give you an idea as to what direction that you are supposed to address. I'm just going to give you one more area or component that we talk about. One area that in Purposeology that I think is very, very important is sociology. The study of sociology, studying of our community, studying of the society in which we live. When you were born, the study of society becomes a very important question. I was born in a time during the civil rights movement. And those people that were born during that time, if you would talk to anyone born during the civil rights movement, they have a strong sense for justice. They have a strong sense for fairness. They have a strong sense for unity. And that's the part that society or sociology plays in the role of you finding purpose. What was going on when you were born? Why were you injected in time at that particular time? Why did you come on the scene then as opposed to another time? Because purpose dictated you being there at that particular time, because what you have inside you is to answer that question. You are an answer to a question. You are a solution to an equation. But the thing is, what's the equation? What's the problem? Most people don't know. And that's why Purposeology is to help people find out what it is.
Wow, this is some good stuff on a Saturday afternoon. I almost feel like we have some church up in here. I want to throw people out there. And I'm like, ooh, maybe we should have waited until Sunday, because it's the good stuff every day, especially around here. Oh, that is so amazing, because I always tell people that we are living right now in one of the most beautiful times in history. There has never been a time in history where we have the one thing that people since the beginning of time always wanted, and that was access to information. We have the internet. We have the ability to Google anything, Yahoo it, Bing, whatever you go through is not important, but there's nothing that you cannot find out. You have access. I'm like, thank you, Lord, because I don't know how I would live before GPS or, technology and all.
I know, right?
So, I mean, but it's the time we're living in. So, I mean, I remember being a child and I asked my parents a question. And I always tell this story, so you most likely heard it. But whenever I asked my parents a question, they would always answer me by telling me, go look in the Encyclopedia Britannica. That was their thing. You know, my kids now, they're 22 and 25. And growing up, they'd ask me a question. It could be anything. Mom, how do you spell Mississippi? And I'd be like, Google. You know what I mean? You have access to information. Go out, go research, go figure it out. So it's the same thing with spirituality, the same thing with science. It's the same thing with all these different things. We have access, and scripture tells us, my people suffer from lack of knowledge. And now guess what? People have access to knowledge. There's so much knowledge at hand. I believe it's just a beautiful time to be alive.
I agree. Here on the East Coast, we're having an issue in the area of substance abuse.
Yes, West Coast too.
And probably, the world actually, yeah.
Yes.
One of the places where I do some work is in Baltimore, Maryland. Baltimore, Maryland has a severe substance abuse problem, especially in the area of opiate addiction. And unlike what we're now experiencing, that people saying that it's a crisis and it's just become a crisis. No, this has been decades and decades of opiate addiction in cities like DC and Los Angeles and Baltimore. And there's a drug called fentanyl. And this drug called fentanyl, people are dying from very small doses. Very small doses, and for some reason, people, they can't stop using it, even though they know that they can possibly die. They'll still use it. Now, what would make a person do that? What would make a person do that? Because people are lost. People are lost. They are hopeless. They feel hopeless. They have no hope. They have no direction. They have no sense of destiny. They have no sense of purpose. And so if we can help bring purpose to people, what we do is we cure the ills of our community. We cure the homelessness. We cure the substance abuse. We cure the abuses that take place on women and children and things of that nature. Because what the problem is that people don't know why they're here. People want to pray and say, God, God won't take care of this. God, why won't God do this? Why won't God do that? The reason is because God sent you to do it. There's something for you to do. It's not for God. See, we're still looking for God to do something, and God answered the prayer. God answered the prayer in the form of you. You're the answer. And so now it's time for us. And so we have to find what it is that I'm supposed to contribute. And the only way you can find that out is through purpose. You want success? You want to be successful? You want to have all your provisions? You want to be able to be everything fulfilled, be totally fulfilled in what you want and everything that you touch and be successful in everything you touch? The only way that you can do that is to find purpose. It's the only way. And we can heal our community. We can heal the culture. And we can heal our families, our clans.
Yes. Again, I'm about to throw out some amens up in here. But I mean, I love the fact that you're not a shy person. I don't know if you noticed that or not, but some of the statements that you make, like, they are very strong statements. They're statements that a lot of people, a lot of leaders would be afraid to say. Really, they're like, oh my God, my congregation may not like this. My friends may not like this. The people who listen to my radio show, my podcast, my TV, watch me on TV, they don't want to hear me say that we can cure society's ills at all, let alone by allowing people to find their purpose. Because there are other people who benefit from other people not having a purpose, from, doing different things like that. So you're making some very, very strong statements, and I support you. I, for one, love it.
Thank you. So when I want to say this about Dr. Monroe, I owe the credit of where my vantage point to him. I mean, you can only stand on someone else's shoulders. You can't take credit. I can't. What Spirit has allowed me to see, I couldn't see if I wasn't standing on his shoulders. If it wasn't for the things that Dr. Monroe shared with me and showed me, not just me, There are hundreds of thousands out there, not just me. But I'm going to say this. I know that where I'm at is exactly what I'm supposed to do. And I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. And I'm looking forward to sharing with people things that Spirit has given me. There is even an equation, a mathematical equation to show you what purpose is. God has shown me an equation. It's a method. It's science. It's science. It's all science, because science is knowledge. And who is God? He is omniscient. And omniscience means to have all, or to know all things. So if there's anything that Spirit doesn't know, then that thing that Spirit doesn't know would be God. But because Spirit is God, there is nothing that Spirit doesn't know. So if we want to find out things like purpose, you have to find out what was in the mind of Spirit when you were born. And it is in knowledge. It is in science, or in the science of knowledge, or the knowledge of science, however you want to put it.
You know what? You just simplified it. You made it easy. So many people put all these, dictionary words, and you're like, got to figure it out. The mind of God. I, for one, love it. Now, we are coming down to the end of my show. So again, I would like to, we have Melvin, D. Marie, Tanya, Edmund, Belinda, Robert, a few more people that joined us in the chat room recently. So since we're coming down to the end of the show, if anyone has any comments, anyone has any questions, please go ahead and ask them or make them in the comment section. I'll read them to our guests. But since we are coming down to the last few minutes of the show, what I'll always do is allow our guests the opportunity to just speak directly to the viewers and let them know what you want them to take away from your interview, or anything you didn't have an opportunity to mention so far. Okay.
Listen, I want us to address the problems that are plaguing our communities. Mm-hmm. So, it's not about making money. It's not for me. It's not about being a big I, little you. It's about healing people, because people are hurting. People are lost. And you're the answer. You're the answer. Now, how are you the answer is the question. We've seen people who we think have reached the pinnacle of success. We've seen people who we thought had all the accoutrement of success. They had all the trinkets and all the toys and everything. And for some reason, they had drug problems. They commit suicide. They go to jail. Why? Because they may be good at whatever it is they're doing. They may be functioning in a certain way, but they haven't found purpose. Purpose will allow you to understand how to function within your area of influence. What I want to encourage you to do, go to my website, purposeqi.com. That's purposeqi.com. And on the homepage, there is a contact sheet. And I would ask you to fill it out, and let's talk some more individually, how we can affect our community, our culture, and our clan, and make changes. One person at a time. You are the answer. It's not our government. It's not our president. It's not our Congress, nor our Senate. It's not any government official. It's not even our pastors. It's not even our religious leaders. It is you, right there sitting under the sound of my voice, in your home, in your car, wherever. You are the answer. And so what we need you to do is let's begin to fulfill purpose and heal the world, and begin to demonstrate dominion as it's mandated by the Spirit. I could go on, but I'm gonna stop right there.
Okay, well, hey, because I know just sitting here listening to you having this church up in here, I'll be here with you another hour or two. In a minute, I'm gonna start passing the plate. So everybody who came in, I'm like, we're gonna need you to pass this, put something in it, because I was so right, and I love it when I'm right. This was an amazing show. I knew it was going to be an amazing show. I knew everyone was going to love you. Everyone was like, great guest, interesting, great question. You are definitely a blessing to the world. And so I know being a blessing is definitely a part of your purpose. I would love for everyone to go to your website, to purposeqi.com. Dr. Palmer, I want to thank you for being a guest on this Saturday morning's episode of Ask Sharifah Videocast.
Thank you for having me. And I want to, in closing, say everybody needs to pick this book up right here.
I love Dr. Palmer. See, this is some good stuff.
You might be an entrepreneur. By Sharifah Hardie. I think you should get it. I have mine. I have to get an autograph, though.
That's okay, because what we're going to do is I'm going to go back to the end of this video and I'm going to take a screenshot of that picture and I'm posting it all over social media because, again, thank you. You're so supportive. You're always willing to support me. And again, that is a part of your purpose, which is why I wanted to be here with you today and do this very special show. As always, if you've enjoyed this, if you had a great time, if you learned something, please go ahead and share this interview because friends, do not let friends miss out on Ask Sharifah. And I definitely have to thank Tammy Sorrento of Fireball Approves. FireballApproves.com is the website you want to go to in case you're about to rent anything because you do not want to get scammed online by scammers. Visit FireballApproves.com to make sure your rental property is Fireball approved. If you're interested in watching more interviews, if you're interested in being a guest, or for sponsorship opportunities, please visit my website at AskSharifah.com. Until then, everyone have a wonderful weekend. Goodbye now.